Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Polk County Board of Commissioners. Today is May 8th. There are extra agendas on the back. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Any comments for items not on this agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 2nd?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is an update from Sheriff Mark Garten. Please join us.
Howdy.
Morning.
Want to just cover, I'll talk about patrol first. This last week, we ended up delivering diapers over to the family building blocks diaper drive that they had. I think they got around 90,000 diapers donated. So it was a pretty good event. We also are going to be participating in a Touch a Truck event that's this coming weekend over in Independence. We'll have our boat out there and do some community relations type of stuff there. So our CAD system, and we'll kind of tie this into the stats that you guys have in front of you, but we're switching CAD systems. Well, Salem, the city of Salem is, and therefore we are switching. And so
Defining what that is.
CAD is computer aided dispatch. So like somebody calls 911, the dispatcher creates a CAD or a call for service and sends it out to patrol.
Thanks.
So I don't know exactly how that report section is going to be in there and how easy it is. Hopefully it's much easier than the current system we have. That's kind of some of our problems that we're running into. And those stats that you have there are CAD events. So just because there are, let's say 30 burglaries that are dispatched there, that doesn't necessarily mean there's been 30 burglaries. Once the deputy gets there, they evaluate what it is. It might end up being a theft and not a burglary, or somebody might have just called it a burglary, but it really doesn't fit the statute of burglary. So the deputy would then switch that CAD event, and then those numbers, we can't get it to where it reflects what the deputy changed it to. That's how it was dispatched. So some of those numbers you might seem high, but doesn't necessarily mean there's a crime involved either. On some of them, the person that called might think there's a crime, but when we get there, there's not actually a crime. So we're not charging a burglary or a theft or something like that. So that's why some of those numbers are going to be higher. And I'm hoping to be able to get these numbers from the new CAD system, but again, we haven't even seen it. So, and they're switching it. Well, they want to switch it next week. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah.
And so specific to the scenario you just laid out, where a change in what the call ends up being is, I mean, I'm confident there's some communications between a deputy or deputies in a scene and dispatch. As the scene concludes, you're saying they don't change anything in the CAD, even though there's likely communication. Will the new system?
I have no idea. The dispatch will change if the deputy says, hey, this, or the deputy can do it themselves too. They can change it to a theft or whatever. But the change isn't reflected on here. It's only how it's dispatched. So there's no updating of that information, even though in the end, it did get updated on our report system.
Right, for the judicial system, but not for the reporting needs.
Correct.
And that to me is a frustration. And it's and again, I have, a fire chief sitting in the back of the room that can relate to the issues that we've been dealing with in trying to get data for emergency service calls and how it's reflected in the report from CAD. And unfortunately, or who all comes and helps, there's a myriad of challenges. So this isn't unique.
And not just us.
But I think it's important to note that for the public is that we have a far from perfect call system and record keeping system that when we need to go back and get records to help us evaluate what we've been doing and what needs to be fixed, it's not the right picture. It doesn't paint the information for you that 2 years, 5 years later, you can create a historical document that helps you understand what you need for funding. And I'm editorializing, I apologize, but I think for the record, that's what I want to reflect is, yes, you are able to do the things you need to do for the judicial system, but not necessarily for your long-term record keeping. And here we are making a big change again and still can't solve that.
Yeah, and these numbers, so these are reflective. It gives you a good picture of what the deputies do on a day-to-day basis, though. It shows that, you have 300 traffic stops and you have these burglaries and thefts. People are calling about these events. And so that gives you a better picture of, or at least some picture of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis throughout the last month. So, but we'll see what the new CAD software reporting system does. We'll see. So apparently they're going to make a decision to switch yes or no this Friday. So there's still hope that it maybe gets pushed out. So they can, and there's a list of identified problems that they acknowledge and still want to know if we want to switch or not. We are working homicide investigation. We've moved some folks around to be able to work that case because it requires more than just one person to work it. So just wanted to let you know that we've had to reorganize, but we still are covering shifts with the minimum staffing and we're able to handle this case too. Plus we're working with another agency or outside agency. So hiring on patrol, we are full staff on paper. We have a couple, we have 3, I think, that are waiting for psychs. So we're much further along than we were just a month ago. In the jail, we're full staff on paper as well. We have 2 that are ready to go to psych that we're only down 1 position, but Mr. Hansen gave us the ability to overhire because we're anticipating a retirement in August. So we had 2 good applicants this time. So we were able to pick both of them up and get them going. So that was good and appreciative. We have a reserve graduation in June. We only have 1 reserve in that academy, but they do graduate in June. It's at the fairgrounds on the 7th. So in the jail, today's population is 107, 89 males and 17 females for a total of 107. And we've been doing a camera upgrade over there for the last several months. It's going pretty well. The cameras were going in. Then we switched the control panel over to a new system, what controls and opens the doors and turns off water and power and all that stuff. We had a few little hiccups with that, and we had to, I guess in one way it was a good test because we had to use keys basically for every door. There was not a lot of automation that was available during that switchover, and it was a little hectic, but everybody got through it, and we're on the uphill slide of that. So, and then this week is Corrections Officer Appreciation Week, and so we have a couple things planned for them throughout the week, just snacks and that kind of stuff, just to say thanks and that they aren't forgotten over there. Sometimes it feels like that they can be forgotten, but because they work in an environment with no windows and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, that's going on, and that's really all I have, unless you guys have questions.
What Reserve Academy, where is it held and how many did they have total?
I don't have the number, but it's less than 10, I believe, that they had in the academy. And I think they've bounced around where they're holding it, but the graduation's at the fairgrounds this year. So that's agencies from Marion and Polk County, Benton County, and I think McMinnville, so Yamhill as well. So it's not a lot of people, but it's important. It's still a long process. It's not on a weekend you're not sworn in, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we only have 1 this time.
Yeah, and so my emphasis is more than, in asking that question, is more than just the one for Polk County. and that's one that's graduating. That probably was more that started, I would guess. But the challenge there to emphasize is across 4 counties, not very many volunteers. So,
Yeah, and this is a good time for hiring, so there's less, brand new people that would typically might find that reserve path and then end up going full-time, but they're going full-time right away just because of the sheer number of openings across the area. Yeah, so it is definitely lower than what we've ever had, but at least we have one.
Congratulations on the recruitments.
Yeah.
Very good news to see that you're fully staffed. And I think
On paper.
on paper. It's going to happen. I feel good about it, even though I'm.
I do too. I do too. I don't see any issues, but.
But I do think it's a testament to the culture that you've cultivated in the department and our community. That's really works well with law enforcement, I think, overall. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Betty Sledge. Betty, if you'd like to come speak with us about Older Americans Month, and then we have a proclamation.
what's that? I had it right in front of me. Okay.
Hi, I'm Betty Sledge. I am the older adult behavioral health specialist for Polk County. I'm responsible for all of the citizens 60 years old and older. So I'm trying to make, there's 25 of us throughout the state, and every county has a specialist. The reason the state did this is because 10,000 people a day turn 65 in our country. And it will top out, this is to the baby boomers generation, it will top out in 2050 with 88 million, or 20% of the population will be over 65. In just 11 years, for the first time in history, there'll be more people over 65 in the United States than there are under 18. So that has a lot of indications that we need to look at our infrastructure, of which is already breaking at the seams as far as trying to find a nursing home bed, an adult foster home, mental health placements, physical health placements. It is disastrous to try to find beds for people. And part of that, it's not only because of the pandemic. The pandemic has made it worse. We have one of our highest level homes are for people who have serious mental illness, behavior problems, and physical problems also. It's up at Mount Angel in the Benedictine nursing home. They have 25 beds for these people. There's only about 10 in the state. 25 beds, and only about 5 are filled because there's not enough staff. And there's a waiting list months long for people. We're housing them at Salem Hospital and other hospitals throughout the state, which the hospitals aren't happy about either because they're not long-term care. But there's nowhere to put them and there's no staff. So it already, I mean, if that's where we are now, what's it going to be like in 2050 when there's 20% of the population? So the state's trying to put specialists in place to fill gaps and with no new money and all of those things. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm on a lot of committees and boards to try to represent Polk County. I'm on the Northwest Senior Advisory Board, their BSAC board for the disability folks. I'm on their steering committee, their budget committee. I'm a board member of Monmouth Senior Center, which is a department of the city of Monmouth, so it runs differently. I'm president of our Dallas Senior Center, which is a 501(c)(3). I'm on the board of the DDA to try to look at Dallas becoming a age-friendly community. I'm working with Monmouth and Independence because they are made a proclamation. I think Independence is doing it next week or so to take on the AARP age-friendly community program, which comes with a possibility of a lot of big money and big grants because ARP is a huge organization. And I'd like to approach Dallas and try to make that happen. I put out 2 newsletters a month, one for mental health folks, everybody over 60 that's in the behavioral health program. It's more designed for loneliness, isolation, depression, those sorts of things. And then I put out one for all of the seniors for the Dallas area, and then I contribute to the one in Monmouth. You know, I put on trainings, workforce development trainings, so for the workforce, because I mean, the workforce turns over like crazy. The CNAs, the home care commission, I'm also on the home care commission. And so I can do a training every 3 months and have all new people because people aren't staying in the jobs. So, and we're getting kids right out of high school. So I put on a lot of trainings. I also do community stuff, mental health, first aid, that sort of thing. I've done 4 of them recently. I have 4 more scheduled before June. So I just try to do as much as a person can do and try higher level stuff. So because if I do too much direct stuff, you only have so many hours in the day. My biggest thing before I really retire or croak over is I would love to start an older adult department with behavioral health. That's the ask for from the state. It hasn't gotten a lot of traction now. I mean, I'm the older adult department. We do have a multidisciplinary team that meets twice a month to talk about patients that are causing problems, or they just don't. They're not receiving the services they need. But right now, we do not have a dedicated therapist. We do have a prescriber who specializes in geriatrics. That's Lori Linton Nelson. And that's kind of her specialty and the population she likes working with most. But as far as having any peer supports or anything dedicated, like you have a child team or an A&D team or, you know, some of those other things, it's a crisis team. It's not there yet. And I'd like to see that happen before I leave forever and age out. I'm way past the 65 mark. So that's what's happening. This is Older Americans Month. I want to do some trainings on ageism. That's a huge problem in the country. It's one of the last accepted prejudices. So I'd like to do a lot of trainings on that. And I'm trying to roll out something with the Dallas Senior Center now. For this month, I'm doing a little program over at Monmouth Senior Center. Hopefully anybody who goes to the Polk County Fair, I know I saw you there last year. I'm going to put those, have them enter them in the fair. It's a program called With These Hands. You just take a picture of someone's hands, then they write a little paragraph of what they've done in their life. And I saw it up in Multnomah County, and it was just really cool. And I thought when I went to the fair, because I represented Polk County and Monmouth and Dallas Senior Centers at the fair last year, and there wasn't very many displays. So I thought, you know, I could maybe trade both of those, because 30 or 40 years ago, I used to be very involved with the fair when I did 4-H, but and I hadn't been since then. I'm thinking this is a whole different world as far as participation. So I'm going to try to do some stuff. So, but that's my project for Older Americans Month. There you have it. I'm here all the time. You can call me 24 hours a day. And I can say that for real now, Matt.
So Betty, you started with housing challenges and appropriate placements for specific needs.
Mhm.
And I know across the country, we're seeing homelessness rates of seniors skyrocket.
Yep.
Are you seeing those challenges manifest in Polk County?
Yes.
And would you say fairly clearly that there's a need for more housing options for our aging?
Yes. Yeah. I'm actually today, his last name is Jackson. He works for, I don't know, land development, or I don't know. He asked me to go out and meet a couple of people who are on hardship cases that are going to lose their hardship and then they'll be homeless. It's out near Salt Creek or something. And he asked me to go out because he needed a couple of temps, and And I don't think he's actually gone out there. I don't know if he has that bandwidth, but I said, okay, I'll find it. I'll go see them. Because that'll be two more people homeless. There's two separate people, a mother and a son who live on different parts of the property. I've got a lady right now I found thank goodness, a place in Samonka House, which is a female housing for the homeless. And, but she's not doing well there. It's, I think, too much of a religious overlay for her. So she won't participate in different things.
The UGM program.
Yeah, yeah. But she was just, she doesn't have a car. She was at the warming shelters and the warming shelters were ending. She's 71 or so and she's not your typical homeless person. She was frightened to death. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna negotiate this? And I didn't know. I mean, some people at the senior center took her on and gave her a couple of days each at the hotel here in town. But I'm going, that's not gonna last. Well, it gives me 6 days and there was just nowhere to put her. But I have a connection over at Samonka House and they said, okay, we're gonna try to divide something and do something for her. So, which they did. So God, I mean, that's a third of my job is making connections with people so that when something desperate comes up, I can kind of leverage that connection and make things happen. And that's proved really valuable for me. And part of it is because I've been here so long, in the county. I know a lot of people in a lot of different realms. So that's helpful. But for other specialists throughout the state, it's terrible, really terrible. And, homeless seniors in Polk County are within the Arches thing. So it's Polk, Marion, Yamhill. It's the largest growing section of the homeless population, folks over 65. And their life expectancy is about 7 months on the street because they have all these chronic conditions and you can't take care of them. And they don't have that resiliency that a 40 or a 50-year-old does. So it's, and there's just no place to put them. This woman is hoping to purchase a car because she does have Social Security. So she's got like $700 a month. And that's where she would sleep, but that's not quite a solution. But I'm talking with Rita Grady now over it. Because I think next year she said she believes that she's going to have a 30-bed home for seniors. So that'll be wonderful. But
Be part of the Carson Commons project.
Mhm.
What's neat about that project too, is there'll be some dedicated beds for youth kind of exiting foster. So there'll be some really neat intergenerational
Yeah.
opportunities for socializing and connection
yeah,
there.
so
So that's kind of potentially exciting if that all works out. And I just have one more question. And other than commending you and thanking you for your advocacy and all of your work, well,
Thank you.
we're so lucky to have you in this community. Do you have a sense of why there is such high turnover with in-home care and other positions that,
well, part of it is the low pay.
okay,
And it's very hard work. Especially when you're dealing with folks who are older and have mental health issues too. They have raised the pay to $18 an hour, but when it costs you $14 for a McDonald's number 10, whatever, your burger, fry, and Coke, it's just not keeping up with inflation. And it's a disrespected occupation, I can't tell you, and you guys have all heard it, I'm sure. Well, maybe not, but I wipe butts for a living, nobody, and it's disrespected. And the conditions aren't usually ideal. And many of these homes have 24-hour care. If you're 18 or 19 or 20 years old, you don't want to work the graveyard shift because that's when all your friends are out and those sorts of things. Being a caretaker is emotionally and physically draining because lots of these people, especially if, well, not only, but especially if they have mental health problems, can be quite mean and nasty and hateful and all of those things, And when you're working with a demented population, for some of those folks, a significant portion, the change in mentation is that they become mean and nasty and horrible and things that you've never seen before. In their life, they didn't have, especially like with cursing and stuff, they'll say, I didn't know my mother ever knew one of those words. I never heard them from her, but it's something that in the brain. And of course, it's not volitional, but that doesn't matter when you're the caretaker and you're exhausted and you're working hard. I mean, just to try to get a shower or to get somebody dressed or to get them to eat or out of bed, it's a battle. And when you do that every day, and then your paycheck is, $600 or something for 2 weeks, it's like, what am I doing here? And right now, as Matt, I'm certain can tell you, it's an employee's market. There's jobs everywhere, and you can make more in McDonald's, which is, it's not a good scene.
Very undervalued work.
And we're seeing it with the things like at Mount Angel at Benedictine. Nurses are doing the same thing. Most nurses, well, many of them, I can't say most, the increase in travel nurses has just skyrocketed because they can make 3 or 4 times the money. And so therefore they're only there for a month or 6 months or 2 weeks or whatever. That's what Mount Angel is seeing. And one of the unforeseen problems with that is they bring COVID in regularly because these people are traveling all over, and then they get shut down because of COVID, and you can't take any new patients. So that's been a big problem, and Salem Hospital is doing the same thing. And then the healthcare industry is vying for people, upping signing bonuses and all that stuff, luring people away, which we've never seen before. Used to be you'd work for Salem Hospital, you'd work until you retired, but that's not true anymore. And the travel nursing thing has been devastating for the nursing world. And they're not accepting any new nursing patients. They haven't increased that. So I don't know where it's going to end up, but it is pretty desperate. And it's really hard for the NWSDS workers, who's the area agency for Yamhill, Polk, Marion, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties. They do all of the nursing home placements, all of the in-home care, all of they do so many things. But that's basically in and out of the hospital, in and out of different kinds of caretaking situations. It is desperate for those people to try to find a home for somebody. Sometimes, there's 3 beds in the entire state. Just wrap your head around that when you think 10,000 people a day. And Oregon is one of the higher populations of people over 65 in the union. So, and Polk County is higher than the average in Oregon. Where is there? When I started this job, this particular job as older adult specialist 8 years ago, we had 71 homes in Polk County for adult foster care, for physical. And now we're like 15. And so those caseworkers all over the state are vying for a bed. If they see one, it's snatched up within seconds. And, so people are in all kinds of desperate conditions. And then on the other side, I'm going, Polk County really needs a robust older adult program so we can help and do some solutions. But that's a discussion for another day. I'm going to live long enough, though, I hope. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you so much again for your work. And this is a national crisis in many ways. And we've seen it coming. I mean, we know that this boomer generation is a large generation. So this shouldn't have come as a surprise. I'm hoping the Medicaid exemption that can perhaps be used for housing and sheltering may help that population. I get frustrated with the housing voucher system, that a elderly person couldn't, for example, supplement some of their rent with a grandchild or somebody else or a young person in the community. There's a lot of restrictions there. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on all levels.
And there's another national bill that's out that I hope it's been tried 40 years that I know of, and I hope it passes. I think it's going to, where somebody other than a licensed psychologist or a licensed social worker can bill Medicare.
Sure.
Because right now, we don't have any licensed social workers in behavioral health that are line workers. We have them, but they're all supervisor types, so they don't see clients. So we have nobody that can see older patients if they're Medicare only, of which we have a lot. So we're giving them peer supports or a case manager sometimes, or usually me. I'll take them on because I can't stand it. See somebody depressed and, oh, there's nobody to bill, so you don't get any. It's just, yeah, it's a crisis too. So that and the housing, hopefully, if the Senate passes it or Congress passes it, will make a huge difference all over the country to have family counselors or, the other various things, professions to be able to bill Medicare, because it's a big problem.
It's good people the help they need that they're entitled to, that are qualified.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every other thing, but not Medicare. You can bill anything, but not Medicare. It's
Thank you.
very strange.
Appreciate it. Commissioner Pope, I'm hoping you'll do the honors to put the proclamation in the record. Thank you for
Yes.
bringing this to our attention.
So we have a proclamation that has been supplied, and language has been supplied for us. So before the Board of Commissioners of Polk County, Oregon, in the matter of designating the month of May 2023 Older Americans Month under proclamation number 23-03, whereas this year the Administration for Community Living designed the 2023 Older American Month theme called Aging Unbound as an opportunity to explore diverse aging experiences and discuss how communities can combat stereotypes. Whereas Polk County recognizes the need to create a community that provides the services and supports older adults need to thrive and live independently for as long as possible. Whereas Polk County can work to build an even better community for older adults by planning programs that encourage independence, promoting community and civic engagement opportunities, increasing access to services that support aging in place, and ensuring activities are responsive to individual needs and preferences. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Polk County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 2023 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every resident to take time during this month to recognize older adults and the people who serve them as essential and valuable members of our community.
Excellent. Now we can sign it to make it official. Okay. All right, folks, next up and last on the agenda are any non-listed items. Do we have anything that we need to address that isn't on the agenda? Mr. DeMel? You good? All right. All right, thanks again for being here, and we are adjourned.